The year is 1962, October. The world holds its breath, clenched in the icy grip of the Cuban Missile Crisis. We all know the story. The diplomatic back channels, the naval blockade, the brinkmanship that brought humanity closer to oblivion than ever before or since. But what you might not know, what was kept from us, buried under layers of classification so thick they seemed impenetrable, is that there was an alternate story unfolding simultaneously. Not in Washington, not in Moscow, but deep within the granite bedrock of a forgotten mountain range. A place codenamed Site R. A place designed for the unthinkable. A place that, had history pivoted just slightly differently, would have become the final desolate command center for the end of the world as we knew it. Imagine for a moment the White House bunker, a symbol of presidential continuity. Now forget it, this was something else entirely. It was a phantom limb of power, ready to twitch into agonizing life when the main body had ceased to function. A communication hub built not just to survive, but to orchestrate survival, or perhaps something far more chilling. The official narrative would tell you it was a fallback, a redundant system. But no redundancy requires this level of secrecy. No fallback justifies this depth of paranoia. And no mere communications center would warrant the sheer unholy scale of what was excavated here.
Correct. The official designation, Raven Rock Mountain Complex, provides a civilian facade. Its primary stated mission was to house the Alternate Joint Communications Center, or AJCC, acting as a redundant command and control facility for the Pentagon and key defense agencies during a catastrophic event. Construction commenced in 1950, predating much of the public's awareness of full-scale nuclear war doctrine, and continued aggressively through the early Cold War. The initial concept, however, was predicated on an air attack scenario, not thermonuclear annihilation. The transition in threat assessment from conventional bombing to ICBM strikes in the mid to late 1950s significantly altered its internal architecture and capabilities. The complex itself is not a single bunker, but a subterranean city, a network of 5 discrete, freestanding buildings within the mountain, totaling approximately 718,000 square feet. Each building is independently supported by its own utilities: power, water, air filtration, and waste management systems. Access is provided via 4 blast-hardened tunnels, each equipped with massive steel doors designed to withstand a direct near-surface nuclear detonation. The scale was not merely for redundancy, it was for persistence.
Persistence. That's the key word, isn't it? Because when you look at the resources poured into Site R, the sheer architectural madness of it all, redundancy feels like a polite lie. A convenient cover story for something far more sinister. The official blueprints, the ones we're allowed to see, describe a typical command center, offices, conference rooms, server racks, functional, utilitarian. But then you start to notice the discrepancies. The sheer volume of concrete, for instance, far exceeding standard blast shelter requirements. The depth of the excavation, pushing engineers to their limits. Not just into the mountain, but through geological anomalies. Why? Why would you spend billions, push technology to its absolute breaking point for a mere backup? You don't build a doomsday vault this elaborate just to call in reinforcements. You build it to run the show when there's nothing left to reinforce.
The structural integrity of Site R is indeed atypical. The buildings within the mountain are designed as independent boxes within a box, isolated from the surrounding rock by massive spring damper systems, effectively creating a giant shock-absorbing mechanism. This provides not only blast protection, but also seismic isolation, suggesting a preparedness for ground shock phenomena far beyond conventional expectations. Furthermore, the air filtration systems are multi-stage, incorporating HEPA filters, activated charcoal beds, and an experimental electrostatic precipitator array not widely deployed elsewhere. This level of atmospheric purification is indicative of a long-duration, sealed environment operation capable of filtering not just radioactive fallout particles, but also biological agents and certain chemical contaminants. The water supply is drawn from a deep underground aquifer, processed through reverse osmosis and chlorination with a tertiary UV sterilization stage. The internal power grid, initially supplied by 6 1,000 kilowatt diesel generators, was later augmented with an experimental microreactor, a detail consistently omitted from publicly accessible documents. The facility was designed not just for a 2-week operational window, but for sustained, indefinite habitation and command capability. The concept of continuity of government was taken to its most extreme logical conclusion here.
A microreactor, that's a detail that changes everything, doesn't it? Because a diesel generator has a fuel dependency, a finite lifespan. A microreactor? That speaks to something far more permanent, something that doesn't just ride out the storm, but powers an entirely new existence. This isn't just a bunker. It's a self-sustaining ecosystem. And that's where the official story truly begins to fray. Because if it's just a communication center, why the need for such profound self-sufficiency? Why the design philosophy that suggests centuries, not just weeks of operational readiness? It suggests a purpose beyond simply relaying orders. It suggests a genesis for whatever comes next, after the unthinkable has passed. And that's where the true horror begins to set in. Because if the intent was to rebuild, or perhaps to redefine, then what were they truly planning for? And who exactly would be making those decisions inside that mountain?
The psychological and sociological protocols developed for Site R personnel were unprecedented. Unlike other command facilities, Site R incorporated extensive psychological screening and long-term isolation training for its permanent complement. There were documented cases of Raven Rock syndrome, a classification for personnel experiencing acute claustrophobia, derealization, and cognitive dissonance after extended shifts within the sealed environment. The response was not to reduce isolation, but to enhance internal support systems, including mock-up external environments projected onto interior walls and simulated daylight cycles. The personnel were not merely technicians. They were, in a sense, a curated seed population. Access to the deepest operational sectors required a red key clearance, a tier above top secret, granting authorization to execute Contingency Protocol Zeta. While the specifics of Protocol Zeta remain classified, anecdotal accounts from retired personnel suggest it involved initiating pre-programmed governmental functions and a provisional legislative framework designed for a post-cataclysmic environment, effectively bypassing traditional democratic processes entirely. The assumption was that the remnants of the populace would require firm, centralized guidance if any populace remained. The authority vested in the personnel within Site R, under the strictest interpretation of these protocols, effectively constituted a shadow government in waiting, operating with executive, legislative, and judicial powers during a designated national emergency of extreme prejudice.
A shadow government in waiting. That's not a contingency plan. That's a secession protocol. It's the ultimate break glass in case of emergency button, but with no guarantee of ever putting the glass back together. And the implication there, the truly chilling part, isn't just that they could take over, but that they had already decided how. They had written the laws for a world that hadn't happened yet. They had chosen the architects of a future nobody ever wanted to see. And all this under a mountain, powered by its own sun, breathing its own air. It's a self-contained universe of command, disconnected from the very society it was sworn to protect. It begs the question, how much agency, how much humanity would survive that transition? Would the government emerging from Site R even resemble what we recognize today?
The internal architecture of Site R was progressively modified to accommodate an expanding mission scope. Early designs focused on purely defensive communications. By the late 1960s, however, subsequent expansions included dedicated data synthesis centers and secure external reintegration chambers. The data synthesis centers were equipped with advanced, then experimental computing systems designed to process vast quantities of environmental and demographic data in a post-event scenario, essentially mapping the remnants of civilization. The external reintegration chambers, often misidentified as decontamination units, were highly specialized environments for assessing and potentially reacclimating personnel or vital assets retrieved from the surface after a prolonged event, incorporating advanced biological and radiological shielding alongside psychological stabilization protocols. There were persistent, unconfirmed rumors within the contractor community regarding a deeper, inaccessible sublevel, codenamed Project Chimera. This level was never formally acknowledged in declassified documents, but its existence was inferred from anomalous power conduit schematics and ventilation shafts that terminated abruptly at bedrock levels far below the known subterranean structures. Whispers suggested Chimera housed experimental atmospheric reprocessing technologies, or more disturbingly, a secure biological research facility intended for long-term genetic preservation or modification projects. These rumors, while unsubstantiated by official records, highlight the extreme speculative lengths to which the perceived capabilities of Site R extended among those tangentially involved in its construction and maintenance. The objective was not merely to endure, but to potentially dictate the terms of post-event evolution.
Genetic preservation or modification projects? That pushes Site R from a doomsday bunker into the realm of a scientific ark, or worse, a laboratory for a new species. It suggests a detachment from humanity that is truly terrifying. Because at that point, you're not just safeguarding democracy, you're playing God. And the idea of an inaccessible sub-level housing project chimera with anomalous power conduits leading to nowhere, that's not a rumor. That's a foundational myth for a place like this. Because what else would you hide, even from your own protocols, even from history, unless it was so profound, so ethically ambiguous, that its mere existence threatened the entire concept of the mission? It's not just about surviving. It's about rewriting the rules of existence itself from inside a mountain. And the silence around it, the official denials, only amplify the unsettling truth. If it wasn't there, why the need to hide it so meticulously?
The ongoing operational status of Site R remains a critical component of national security. While portions of its mission have evolved and some functions have been distributed to other secure facilities, its core capability as an alternate joint communications center persists. The initial threat matrix that necessitated its creation, primarily large-scale nuclear exchange, has diversified to include cyber warfare, electromagnetic pulse attacks, and unconventional global destabilization scenarios. Consequently, its internal systems and operational protocols undergo continuous, silent adaptation. The personnel complement, once focused solely on communications and command, now includes specialists in data integrity, resilient network architecture, and psychological operations. a term now broadly applied to information management in high-stress, degraded environments. The microreactor, for example, has been upgraded several times, demonstrating a commitment to energy independence far beyond what any public utility could guarantee. The secrecy surrounding Site R is not a historical artifact. It is a continuously reinforced operational necessity reflecting the evolving nature of existential threats. Its physical presence is a testament to the persistent contingency that dictates global power dynamics, the always present possibility of absolute systemic failure, and the need for a mechanism to navigate its aftermath.
And that's where the story of Site R truly becomes unsettling. It's not just a relic of the Cold War, a dusty monument to a bygone era of fear. No, it's alive, it's active, it's waiting. The microreactor humming, the air filters silently cycling, the command centers ready for activation at a moment's notice. It's an insurance policy, yes, but an insurance policy against the very worst of humanity, built by the very same. It stands as a silent sentinel, a chilling testament to the fact that even as we live our lives, build our futures, debate our politics, there is a separate, hidden infrastructure designed for when all of that collapses. A place where the ultimate decisions, the truly impossible ones, have already been considered, written down, and assigned to people we will never know. It's the ultimate shadow, cast by the brightest lights of our civilization, a constant lurking reminder that the game of global power always has a final, terrifying escape clause. And we are not privy to the details of that clause. It's still there, ready. And it begs the ultimate question: what exactly are they waiting for now?